Hey everyone, Mark Ferguson with Invest for More. Welcome to another one of my real estate investing and real estate agent videos. I'm going to talk about appraisals today. So that's what you're looking at is an appraisal that was recently completed on one of my properties. This appraisal came in $20,000 less than the contract price. However, we successfully challenged it, and it was raised back up to $250,000 and saved me 20 grand. So we're going to talk about how appraisals work, go through them a little bit, how to challenge them, how to prevent low appraisals. Great information if you're a real estate agent for your clients or if you're an investor selling houses as well. So before we get started, I've got much more information on my blog, investformore.com. Be sure to check it out. I've got some articles on appraisals. You can see all my flips and rentals on there as well. And it'd be awesome if you checked out my podcast, the Invest for More Real Estate Podcast 2, which we do weekly. I think I've got 113 episodes now on my podcast. Kind of crazy. So getting started on this appraisal. I've kind of scrolled to the middle of it just to leave off some private information, the appraiser's name, buyer's name, things like that. But what an appraisal is a value on a home. It's done by a licensed appraiser who has to go to appraisal school. Usually have to have a degree in college, be an apprentice for a while. It's a lot of work. The banks hire an appraiser. He gives them the value. The bank wants to know what the appraised value is so they know they're loaning on a house that's worth what the buyers and sellers say it's worth. So this particular house, I listed for $219,000, and we had like 8 offers. The highest offer was $250,000. We cannot believe the offer was so high. And I guess the appraiser could not either because he disagreed with us at first and said it should be worth $230,000. But so if you have an appraisal coming low, say it's listed for $250,000 or the contract's for $250,000, the appraisal comes in for $230,000, the bank will only lend on that appraised value. They don't care if you have it under contract for $250,000. They're going to base their loan based on the $230,000 value the appraiser comes up with. So in this case, we're selling to an owner-occupied buyer. They don't have much money to bring to closing. When the appraisal came in low, our only choices are cancel the contract, try and get another buyer, or get the appraisal raised, or I take $20,000 less. So I did not want to take $20,000 less, so we challenged the appraisal. I believe this was an FHA loan, which means this appraisal sticks with the property for 5 months. So if I have any other FHA buyers, they have to use this same appraisal. They won't get a new one, which is also frustrating, so you can kind of get stuck with these bad appraisals. But like I said, we challenged it. I'll show you how. We got it raised and saved me $20,000, which is wonderful. All right. So just looking at this appraisal, there'll be all kinds of like a description of the appraiser above, they're hired, blah, 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 some other information, who the borrower is, who the lender is. And right here it'll tell you house was listed for $219,900, when it was listed, when it went under contract. Contract price is $250,000, and that's what he's kind of basing this appraisal off. Talks about the market, the neighborhood, housing trends, says it's a stable market, imbalanced demand, marketing time under 3 months. This is all not true, but almost every appraiser will say it's a stable market and supply and demand is in balance. I don't know if it's pressure from banks or what, but we have one of the hottest markets in the country in Colorado. Prices are going up like 20% a year. They've almost tripled in 6 years, yet we're in a stable market. There's almost no houses for sale. We've had the lowest inventory the last 6 years, every year. Each year was lower than the last. So we have like 80 houses for sale in a town of 100,000 people. Yet it's still in balance. Does not surprise me. They almost always do this. But this is a place where you can challenge them saying, hey, I have these stats. I can show you price increases, low inventory. This is not correct. We need to change that. Down here, there's all kinds of stuff about electricity, lot size, different things. You can read through it if you really want to, but it's not very exciting. Down here, we talk about the property, 1 unit, detached, single family, talk about the foundation. It's a tri-level built in 1971. Fences, fireplace, garage, all that information is listed here. And then there's some more information down here. Talking about the condition. C4. C4 means it needs some work. Not in amazing shape, but not in horrible shape either. And you can kind of read his description. No updates in the prior 15 years. Not true. No functional, physical, or external obsolescence noted. That means like weird things that would affect the value of the home, like a railroad track right behind it. Subject is an average condition with standard room arrangements. Utilities were functioning. Kitchen is functional. Kitchen is dated, which I would agree with. New carpet in the bedrooms, new roof, furnace, and exterior paint. So that's kind of weird that he says no updates in the prior 15 years. Yet he says new roof, new paint, new furnace. It also had new electrical and the sewer line replaced as well. So that he kind of contradicts himself there. I think it was a C3, which is in slightly better condition, but I could also see how he said C4. So really not a place to challenge him too much, except for him saying no updates were made. Let's see. Here is the important stuff. So when an appraiser fills out this report, he has a subject property, which is a property I was selling. He is comparing it to other sold properties that have sold recently, close to the property, and are similar to this property. And by using the sale prices of other properties and adjusting for them being superior or inferior to this property, he comes up with a value for what he thinks my property is worth. Now, here are 3 sold comparable properties. Later in the report, he has 2 more sold properties and an active property, but we're going to pay attention to these. Now, what you want to look at is all the characteristics for the subject. Make sure they're correct. Sales price, lot size, type of property, condition, age. Make sure all of that information is correct. If he lists any of this information incorrect or wrong, that's grounds to challenge the appraisal, have him redo it. Make sure the square footage is correct. I had a house I sold a year ago where the appraiser measured the house wrong. He left off 150 square feet. I saw this discrepancy between the appraisal and public records. I went out and measured the house myself, found the error. He fixed it. He raised the value like $15,000. That's one thing to look at. Here's the basement square footage, finish, make sure that's right. Heating and cooling, it had forced air but no AC, make sure that's right. Windows, the garage had a 2-car garage plus a 1-car detached garage. Porch, patio, so that's the subject. Make sure that's right. And what he does is he takes a sold property. So this property was over a mile away, which is also a red flag. All the comps should be within 1 mile. Sold for $253,000. Took 57 days to sell, and the seller paid $2,000 in closing costs for the buyer. So these are where the adjustments are made. So he's saying since the seller paid $2,000 in closing costs, this value should be less than $253,000, making it $251,000, which I can see. He also came down here and as a date for date of sale as 1/17. It's a little long ago. That's like 5 months ago when this was done. That's a little old. So we could make the case that the market's not stable, prices are increasing. This is an older comp, and he should adjust for that. Lot size, type of property, condition, he's saying similar, actual age, and condition, he says that one's in better shape, C3 versus C4, so he subtracted $10,000, bringing the value down even more, which basically means our house is worth less, $10,000 less than that one because of condition. You look here, the room count, he's adjusting $6,000 because this house has 1 more bedroom, 1 more bath, and he's adjusting $8,500 because this house is bigger, has more square footage. In the basement, he adjusted $5,400 in the other way because our basement, I'm trying to see here, this basement was bigger, but it just had 1 room. Ours had a room and a bath and a family room. It's hard to read these, but ours had a bathroom, this one did not. And that's the main reason why he adjusted in our favor for the basement. That means our house is worth more. This one had air conditioning, so he took that off. This had a 2-car garage. Ours basically had a 3-car, so he added that. So what he does is he takes all these numbers, adds them together, and either subtracts or adds them to the sales price. So in this case, he's saying this house is much more superior than ours, and our house is worth $18,000 less than it, so our house is worth $234,900. He did the same thing with these, came up with $226,000, $231,000. So when this came in low, first thing I do is look at these adjustments, see if there's anything funky. One thing that was weird is on bedrooms, 7 rooms, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths for this comp. He adjusted $6,000. This one right here, 6 rooms, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. He adjusted $6,000. He adjusted the same amount, even though this one has 1 more bedroom. So I think that was a mistake in his adjustments. He did the same thing there. Those adjustments shouldn't have been as high, which would make these numbers go up and make our property worth more. So that's a good thing. Something else to look at is how far away they are. So again, that's over a mile. That's a reason to challenge that. It sold almost 6 months ago. That's a reason to challenge it. There's some things here we can say, hey, what's wrong with this property? Or these comps aren't the best that could be used. So what I did here, take these comps, plug them into my MLS system. I'm an agent, so I have access to MLS, and you can see all the information on them selling. So this is the second house in that appraisal. And the first thing you should notice, it's a manufactured home. It's not stick-built. My home is stick-built. It's a tri-level. This was a manufactured home that was trailered in, set in a foundation, and sold. These are not worth nearly as much as a stick-built home. A manufactured home should never be used in an appraisal to compare to a stick-built home. Huge red flag. Reason to review the appraisal right there. And you actually can see, if you go back to the report, there it is, design style. He says DT1, which I'm not even sure what that means, but ranch manufactured home. So he adjusted $10,000 for that. But you should adjust much more for a manufactured home versus stick-built, and you should not even be using a manufactured home. That's even in the country when you can't find comps within 20 miles that are similar, you still don't use a manufactured home to value a stick-built home. They're just so different. They're hard to finance. The buyers do not like them. Big no-no. So we came back, and what you can do is tell the lender, hey, we want to challenge this appraisal. Sometimes you have to fill out a form, but you have to give valid reasons on either why he entered information wrong on the subject, why the comps are bad, and you've got to provide better comps. So we can't just say, hey, you shouldn't use a manufactured home, change the value. We have to say, hey, you should not use a manufactured home. Here are 3 comparable properties that are more similar that you should have used. So we did that. We gathered comps that were more similar to the subject, closer. Ironically, they sold for more money as well. And because of the errors he made in our challenge, he raised the value up to $250,000. It was wonderful. Doesn't happen every time, but it can happen. And I don't know if this appraiser just wanted to come in low on this value. I think he's annoyed that I sold the house for $100,000 more than I bought it for, even though I spent a lot of money fixing it up. Because if we scroll down here, there's lots more information here on the comparables, on different things. You can read through those as well. I'm not going to do that, but give you an idea of the properties and what he says about them. All kinds of crazy information on appraisals and their duties. Okay, here are the other comps he used. 2 more sales, and I think this one is an active comp. And you look down at their adjusted sales price, $243, $249, $245. Those are all way closer to $250 than the first 3 used. And I just don't understand why he was using these when there are so many other properties he could have used. And look at this. This is crazy. Square footage. He's comparing a 936 square foot house versus 1459. 780 square feet versus 1459. 894 square feet. Look at these adjustments. 40,000, 33,000. And then he came up and he adjusted $40,000 for condition on this one. Just crazy adjustments. When you see huge adjustments like this on a property that is, not super high priced, that's a red flag as well. So we also brought up these crazy discrepancies with square footage. Square footage should be within 20% of the subject. And those were also reasons that we could challenge the appraisal. and we were successful. So it doesn't always work. Even if you have really good reasons, if you have really good comps, sometimes appraisers still won't come up to the value that you think it should be. But one thing you can do to help and be proactive, whether you're a real estate agent with a listing or whether you're an investor who's trying to sell a house, is give comparable sold properties to the appraiser beforehand. When they schedule the appraisal, get some comparables. Now, don't use crazy ones that are super high priced that don't make any sense and aren't comparable. Use real comps. Get as close as you can. Make his life easier. Don't make it look like you're trying to con him into raising the price. And then give him a list of all the repairs you've done. Everything that's new on the house, everything you fixed up. Let him know the house is in really good shape. Make his job easier. So that's what an appraisal looks like. That's how they're completed. Kind of similar to a broker price opinion, which many real estate agents do. Banks pay for those. But appraisal is more detailed, and you have to have much more education to complete the appraisal. And yeah, so hopefully, this can be kind of confusing at first, figuring out the adjustments, how they work. But the more you see, the more you work with them, the easier it will get. And these numbers vary by area, by the type of home, by the price of the home. So there's no set value for these adjustments. It's kind of just something you learn as you go, what you think the adjustments should be over time. And it can be tricky, but once you figure it out, it's not too tough. And if you know appraisals, you know how they work, you can be a great asset to your clients if you're an agent and helping them, or if you're an investor helping yourself. All right, thanks for watching. That's about all I had. Make sure you check out investormore.com for more information on this. I'll leave some links in the description. If you have any questions, leave a comment. I'll answer you. You can also email me, mark@investormore.com. All right.